Welcome to the Manufacturing Masters Podcast with your host, Allison DeFord.
Today's topic is so cool. I have learned so much from our guest. I can't even tell you. Every time this woman opens her mouth, it feels like a masterclass. Today's topic is turning your maintenance person into a maintenance planner. Now, I don't know about you, but man, there's a lot to unwrap here, and there's nobody better to coach you than Kim, the queen of maintenance and continuous improvement, Wolf. She is an expert on the Manufacturing Masters platform. She's also the president of Kim Wolf Leadership Coaching and Manufacturing Consulting. This lady knows her stuff. She's been a plant manager for companies like Campbell Soup and McCormicks, which I'm sure you've heard of. And she has a framework to help you understand how to create a culture instead of just a system. It's going to change everything. She's going to teach you how to know how many planners you need, depending on how many maintenance people you have, how to measure the effectiveness, and then how to prepare somebody for this role in the first place, instead of trying to shoehorn in an existing employee into the role of planner when maybe they're really not suited for it at all. Join me and Kim Wolf. Everybody, here we grow. The queen. We have the queen today of world-class maintenance and continuous improvement. Kim, thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. I think I never had expected to receive a title like that. That's pretty amazing. It is a topic I'm very passionate about, so I definitely appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, you truly have, just a breadth of experience and wisdom, and you are a very popular expert on the Manufacturing Masters platform, and I think for good reason. And today we're going to dive into a topic that I've heard a lot of questions about and talk about, and so it's a very specific topic: turning your maintenance person into a planner. And I have to be honest with you, I'm not as knowledgeable as you by a long shot. I've always heard, like a lot of my manufacturing clients, they talk about wanting to engage with maintenance managers. I love the fact that you call it a maintenance planner. And I think that's key in our discussion today. So I was wondering if you would share with our listeners and viewers just quickly, and this may be redundant for them, but I think it's important. What does a maintenance planner do? Like what does that role involve?
I think it is probably one of the most key roles that any maintenance department can have. And I know a lot of companies will say, oh, we're too small, or we're too diverse, or there's too much going on, or it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what product you're producing. It doesn't matter how many people you have in your maintenance department. That to me is the key to a world-class maintenance program, this one particular role. So one thing that I can tell you from personal experience is that if a company invests in a maintenance planner, they will be able to increase the output of their maintenance department by 25%. And I've seen it happen. It's not just, it's not
Did
just,
everyone hear
that's
that?
right, it's not.
25%.
25%. What I've seen happen a lot of times is that people will say, we need more maintenance work done, so we're just going to add more people. That does not have to be the way that it is. And in fact, a lot of times that's not a really effective way to get more done. Planning your work is where you will see that biggest impact. So the question, what does the maintenance planner do? They will take all the information that comes in on work order requests. So the facilities that I've been in, anybody could input a work order request. So it could be something that you need, that the engineer needs a piece of equipment installed. It could be that the operator of a piece of equipment knows that there's something going on. They're hearing something or seeing something that's not quite right, and that needs to be investigated. It might be something like a preventive maintenance task that's already in the system, but needs to be completed because it's come due. It could be a multitude, anything that would come through the maintenance staff. It could be something that maybe is fabricated in the machine shop. They will take that information of all these requests that come in, and they will go out and talk to the requester, make sure that they get the details of what's going on. And then they will come back and start to actually figure out what materials are needed, what skills are needed. Do you need an electrician? Do you need to have a millwright? Is it a mechanic? Whoever it might be. How many hours or how much time that task is going to take. They'll make sure that they have everything, including permits. So if they need a hot work permit, or if they need to have a confined space permit, they'll make sure that all that is available and has been approved and ready to go. And then they'll start to put that together in a schedule. And so that schedule should be integrated with the production schedule. And in most plants, some kind of a sanitation or cleaning schedule. Not all facilities are required to do that, but some are. So you would put one schedule together. Basically, that's an equipment schedule, and it would include these maintenance tasks getting done. So that's what the maintenance planner does. They really take the information from a request until it's actually scheduled and happening. And then afterwards, they'll do a review. How close were they on the time estimate that it was going to take to get done? Were there parts that were needed that maybe weren't available? They'll do a review because you want to continue in that spirit of continuous improvement. You want to continue to make improvements to that work order planning process.
Wow. I hope maintenance planners make a lot of money.
They can do very, very well. As I said, it's key. It really is key. And to find a good maintenance planner, it can be tough because you can't just take your best mechanic off the floor and then, wave a magic wand and say, you're now the maintenance planner. You know maintenance, you're the best mechanic on the floor, so go. Not always work.
How often does that happen?
All the time. That's exactly what happens, is that they will promote people internally to this position. Now, I have to tell you, having an internal candidate for this position, there are definite advantages because they know the process, they know the people, they know the product, they know the equipment. A lot of times they know the suppliers. So having that information is really a fundamental piece of the success of a maintenance planner. But your best technical guy is not always going to be the person who's going to be most successful as a maintenance planner.
Well, and let's talk about that for a minute. What are the skills, especially based on your years of experience, what are the skills needed for someone to do really well in this role?
I do think that having that fundamental technical knowledge is absolutely key. If you're going to try to figure out how long a job is going to take to get done, you will have had to have done that. You have to have that experience to say, I know how long it takes to, take this piece of equipment apart and maybe weld it and then put it back together. If you've never done it, that's very difficult to try to make that assessment of exactly what has to be done and how much time it's going to take. So I think that is key, is having that technical experience. As I mentioned, I think having some knowledge of the product, the equipment, the people, what this plant is producing, that kind of thing. That's a good skill to have. But also, I think what distinguishes them from, your superstar mechanic is that they have to be a good communicator. They have to be willing to listen to people, like going out talking to the requesters of the work. Talk to them and find out what it is that's going on. Listen to what they say. And then being able to translate that back to the maintenance staff. So you have to be able to listen, but you have to be able to communicate back. I also think people who are comfortable with the computer. So whatever type of a WMMS system that you've got, that the work orders might be coming in, you have to be able to feel comfortable on the computer inputting this data. That system becomes really your data depository on how long things take and how you can do your schedule and what skills that you need. So it's really important that they're able to do that and even be able to navigate through an ERP system as well, because you're trying to kind of mesh those things together. So I think that's important. So the paperwork piece of it, that can be where you have people who are great with their hands, they think very technically, but they don't love the paperwork. And the maintenance planner has to be really good at both of those things, as well as the communication piece. So that's oftentimes where we see people really struggle from becoming a mechanic with they've got the tool belt and they've got their toolbox to being a successful maintenance planner. So it really is a very specialty role that needs to be considered before they just promote somebody.
Well, that all makes perfect sense. And I know you have an amazing video on the Manufacturing Masters platform where you're talking about this exact thing. And you mentioned this person needs to be a real leader and be respected. How important is that?
That is very important, because I can tell you that if you've got a group of people who are taking direction of and how long it should take, and if they don't really respect that person, they will just kind of say, I'm just going to do my own thing. I don't think that they know what they're doing. I don't think they know what they're talking about. So I'm just going to do my own thing. And as long as it takes, it takes. Now you've really diluted all of the benefits that you get from maintenance planning. So again, if you've got somebody who's got, is very egotistical perhaps, or isn't a good listener, isn't a good communicator, that can really take information that's solid that the maintenance planner has put together, and it could just be dismissed very quickly by a group of maintenance highly skilled people. They really are looking for that. And having been a maintenance manager myself, you can't just walk in and say you're going to go do that. That will just never work. And I've seen other people that have tried that, and I got that lesson early on. That I was told that very early on as a maintenance manager of, these folks around here, they will do somersaults to make your engineering designs or to make your maintenance plans successful if you respect what they bring to the table, because they will respect you back. But if you come out and you just tell them what to do and say you're going to do it because I told you to do it, it will never work. And I truly, truly believe that. And so you really do have to earn their respect. And if they think that you know what you're talking about and you've got the experience and, you're involving them in plans, they will absolutely step up and make sure that that plan is successful.
That is excellent advice. I was curious, have you ever made a mistake in hiring for this role?
I did. There was one time that I hired somebody from outside the company, and he came from a military background, so he had a lot of discipline, understood the computers, understood processes. And that's why I really brought him in, is that the process piece of this, he really was experienced with, because in the military, that's what they're dealing with all the time. They're dealing with documents and processes, and you follow things to a certain letter every single time. All the details have been worked out typically. And so I thought this was going to be a really good match. The problem is that he'd never had any experience turning a wrench. And so it was something he could never overcome. As much as, I tried to, give him that breath to go out and, get your hands dirty, show them you can get your hands dirty, but he had never really done that. And so it really, that was not a successful match, and it wasn't his fault. It was because I didn't realize how important it was to have both process as well as the technical application where you've actually turned a wrench. Now, I also have had somebody who we promoted into that role, and he was great as a communicator, very well respected, had been a maintenance supervisor at one point, and he had worked as a mechanic for years and years and years. The problem that I had there was that he would not take off his tool belt. So he was kind of the opposite side, Or he would say, you know what, I'm just going to quickly fix this because I know it has to be done. I've done it 100 times. I can just do it, as opposed to running it through a work order and that kind of thing. That was great, but now it's taking time away from the other things that he should have been doing as a maintenance planner. And so we actually came to an agreement that we were going to lock his tool belt up in a locker for 2 months, and he couldn't touch it. He couldn't touch it. And so he really had to coach others. He had to teach. He had to document. He had to share that experience that he had, but using the work order process and the maintenance planning process to do that. So that was also, he ended up being the best maintenance planner I've ever worked with. He was amazing. Yeah.
Well,
but he had all those skills.
It's such a balance.
It is. It's tough to find.
Tough to go from being the wrench turner to the planner. So is there, and this may be a dumb question, is there a way to plan for this and have like a training program in place? Like, does that make sense? Or
yeah, it does. It is. I don't know in training program. Now I have done some coaching where companies have brought me in kind of as a neutral third party, but somebody who's been in these roles before, and coached maintenance planners of how to be more successful. So if they're struggling with, I know how to do this, I just want to get out my wrench and just get it done. To how do we take that and turn it into something that is going to fall under his purview of being a maintenance planner? Because all that experience that you have is key. We just have to direct it in a different way. So, I think having planners, giving planners that support that they need to be able to, make that transition and that struggle, I think is really important. I do think developing a really specific job description that is, and the set of skills that you would have that you're looking for, and calling that out very specifically. You need to be the good communicator. You need to be a leader. You need to be, all of those things. And calling that out, pretty clearly in a job description at the beginning will help to set the tone. But a work order, a maintenance planner really should be reporting directly to a maintenance manager. They shouldn't report into a maintenance supervisor per se. I think that's also important, that reporting structure, that their level in a company would be equivalent to a maintenance supervisor. Otherwise, what can happen is that oftentimes a supervisor is really about just getting that equipment up as quickly as possible. We have to get that equipment back to producing right away. That's not always long-term the best thing to do. We may also skip PMs because we're really busy with production. It's a bad habit to get into because you will end up paying for that eventually. So if you have a maintenance planner that's on a team with the maintenance supervisors, now they're working together to say what are the best decisions that we need to make to support production, but also to support the reliability of this equipment that longer term, we need to look out for. So it becomes more of a team effort with the supervisors as opposed to combative and trying to fight for what that maintenance staff is going to do and how they're going to spend their time.
Right. Oh, I love that. It's such a beautiful description, and I can see it. That it feels very balanced, and I was curious, what is the? Can you give some examples of like the number of planners that it's important to have based on the size of your operation or whatnot?
Yeah, I think that is at a very important point. Typically, you would have one planner for every between 20 to 25. If your business is very complex and your equipment is very complex, you may even go as low as one planner for 15. So somewhere between 15 and 25 maybe people that's a good number for what the planners are going to be able to be really effective in planning for that number of people. So, keep in mind that most of the time companies will say, oh, I can't afford to add another person to do this. Although they oftentimes will add people into the maintenance part of it, but they say, I can't do this maintenance planner role because they're not actually producing anything. Well, again, I think 25% output is what you're going to achieve. So keep that in mind. But also, what I have typically done in the past, because of that, I've actually reduced my maintenance staff by, let's just say that I, for example, had 75 people on my maintenance staff. I needed them 3 work order or maintenance planners. So what I did was I reduced my maintenance staff from 75 to 72, and then had my 3 planners. So overall, my labor spending was not any bigger. I'm just having them do different things. And in some cases, you can set that up so that you've got maybe a planner on each shift. You may want to say that you have a planner for your electrical staff, a planner for your millwright staff, and a planner for your mechanic staff. That may be a good way to divide it up. So it really would depend on how you set those teams up underneath those planners. But if you've got one planner that's planning for 50 people, they're never going to be able to get into the level of detail that they need to truly have a work order planned, where you've done the homework, you have documented the steps of what needs to be done, you've put together a parts kit, and you've gotten all the permits that you need to have, scheduled it, and then you've done the follow-up. You can't do that well if you've got 50 people that you're doing it for. It's just, no matter how good you are, you'll never be successful. So I think that is important to look at the ratio. But it doesn't have to be an additional headcount. You can pull from your existing staff, assuming that you've got the skills internally to be able to do that.
Well, and I would venture to guess that it's very common for a company to have a poor ratio of maintenance planners to staff, and tell this person, well, you need to change the world and you need to do it by yourself because we're not adding any more people.
Right. Good luck to you. Right.
Yeah. It's like blindfolding them and sending them into, the wolves. It just doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, and I think that that's really, in my experience in continuous improvement and implementing new programs, whether it be, Lean Six Sigma, or whether it be, the world-class maintenance, or even health and safety, whatever it is, I think that is a tendency that leaders sometimes have. So we've got this great program, and so I want you to go ahead and do that, and everything's just going to fall into place. We as leaders need to be supportive in really understanding what it is that we're asking of people, and then giving them the tools and the resources that they need in order to execute that program and to be successful with it. To me, that's the beauty of manufacturing masters, is that leaders who may not know what they need, I know I want to do this, but I don't know what I need. You can go and learn that information from somebody who's done it before. Sometimes you can't get that stuff from a book. You need it from people who have actually done it.
Right.
And so, getting that information external to your company, because you're not, as a leader, expected to have expertise in everything, but know what you don't know, and then get that information. I know, shocker. Get that information from somewhere, and then provide that support to those key people in the organization who are driving, these continuous improvement. I hate to use the word programs, because it's really a continuous improvement culture. It's not a program. World-class maintenance isn't a program. It's a culture shift.
Good word.
Away from it. It really makes a world of difference if your headspace is around that shift in culture versus a program. Taking a maintenance staff traditionally that's going to stand next to their toolbox and they're just waiting for something to break down, and then they skitter out there and they fix it, and then they go back and then they wait by their toolbox again. And that's traditionally what we have done with the maintenance staff, and many, many, many companies continue to do it that way even today, because they do it differently.
Right.
And so But if this position that we're talking about today with this maintenance planner, that is the first position I would recommend starting with, because that will set you up to start getting the information, detailing it, documenting it, analyzing it, and figuring out what you can do differently the next time, which is what continuous improvement is all about.
I love that. To me, it's that idea of, things start at the top and roll downhill. So if you're creating this culture, as you said, one of my favorite words, and a system, and you start here and then plan, that just makes a lot of sense. And we're getting to the end, and I was wondering, is there like a way to analyze your success? Any kind of benchmarks, like if I'm running a company and I've got, how do I decide, wow, what we've got going is working really well, or, seeing some red flags here? Like, what should people
I think there's probably two metrics that could be used. One would be some kind of an efficiency metric, however you measure that, whether it's OEE that you're measuring or whether it's efficiency on, cases per hour, whatever that might be. But your actual output, your throughput from this equipment that you've got in your facility, however that measure looks, is to baseline it, make sure you've got the data that would back that up, baseline it, and then watch how that improves over time. So that would be, I think, probably one of the primary measures. I think another one would also be your equipment uptime versus downtime. And that's part of a calculation of OEE, for example. But understanding that equipment is available 24 hours a day. Now, I've got some time for cleaning. I've got some time for changeovers. I've got some time for maybe preventive maintenance. So maybe that leaves me with 18 hours a day. Of that 18 hours, how much of that time am I actually running? And if you can say that you're running, 17 and a half out of 18 hours during that available time, I think you're doing very, very well. I don't know very many companies who have a high number like that, though. So I think as far as KPIs from the facility, those two are very good. From a KPI from a maintenance perspective, also looking at how many planned hours versus unplanned hours do you have for your maintenance staff. So if you have them, if they're there for an 8-hour day, and of that 8-hour day, they have maybe 7.5 hours actually available because they're lunch, maybe. So of that time, you've got 7.5 hours. How much of that time are they spending working on planned tasks, which are the things that are rolling through the maintenance planner, versus the unplanned stuff? The equipment is down. I need a mechanic out here right now. I want to keep track of that, because with what you're trying to do is to get those planned hours to go up and the unplanned hours to go down. The firefighting, the stuff that breaks down all the time, you want to have go down. So from a KPI from a maintenance department, planned versus unplanned hours that are spent is, I think, a key metric. And again, all of those things you're going to impact directly and immediately when you start doing work order planning through your maintenance planner.
Oh, well, gosh, there's
a lot.
So much every time I talk to you. And again, you're one of our most popular experts on the platform. So anybody listening, if this is resonating with you, or if you're watching this and you think, wow, reach out to Kim. Like, feel free to reach out to her on the platform or through LinkedIn. Truly, truly amazing. And you use the word coach, which you are. What an effective way for companies to, I think, get a handle on this and hit that 25% increase.
It's huge. It's huge. It's a big number.
I love that. Well, thank you, my dear. I appreciate you more than you know. And you are just a font of wisdom.
Thank you, Allison, very much. I love being a part of this Manufacturing Masters platform. It's been eye-opening to me. I continue to learn from other experts on the platform. So thank you for inviting me to the podcast today, and I look forward to us chatting next time.
Well, you'll definitely be back, and that goes without saying.
Thank
you. For you listening or watching this, we just want to take a minute to say thank you. You have a multitude of things that you could be doing right now, and you chose to spend some time investing in yourself and in your business. So thank you for spending some time with us. And we just want to let you know that the work you do matters. So keep going. We appreciate you, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, Allison.
If you're not already, subscribe to the Manufacturing Masters podcast on Apple Music or Spotify. And for a deeper dive, head on over to manufacturing-masters.com. It's everything they never taught you in school.